Hey guys, Kit here. Welcome back to Player Level 4. It's been a while, so just in case you need an introduction again, it's me, Kit, here with my co-host Fox. Back with us, we got Radron. Radron, how you doing? What have you been up to lately?
Well, I've been playing League of Legends. I'm not even kidding. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I know. Bad words. No, I have been. I've been trying to keep up on the whole Soulforge scene because Soulforge is freaking sweet. I've been playing around with a new deck that I call Crush, a neat little Utera Aloyan gizmo with using Tactician and General and Gargoyle along with a bunch of sweet gigantic Utera creatures just to crush your opponent. A lot of fun. I have not been doing a lot of writing recently. I apologize. I am a lazy bastard, but I do have an article that has been submitted. It is being edited. You will see it soon.
What I want to know is if you have any puns for lazy bastard.
Not off the top of my head.
Fair enough. Well,
probably Kit.
Ooh, nice.
Ouch.
Well, I'm going to go and stop the fight that's in progress already.
I'm just kidding.
I love you,
wow.
Rage.
Wow. Anyways, we have a special guest this week as well, and his name. Well, let's wait a little bit on his name. He is from the grand land of Canada. He can't stop saying
Canada.
And after all, Canada's name was decided by picking consonants out of a hat. They went C-A, N-A, D-A. All the way from Canada, we have JakeAlmighty. How are you doing, Jake?
I'm good. That is not how Canada was named. But yeah, we'll go with it.
So what do you do, Jake? Why do we have you on here? In your opinion, what made us want to bring you on?
I don't know. I won a lot of tournaments or something. I don't know.
He is almighty.
That is true. Jake is one of the higher seeds in the Forge Watch Invitational. He's an all-around good guy. He's one of the few people we got in the Invitational representing Canada, and he also has spent $1,100 on this game, so he kind of bought his way into the Player Level 4 podcast, but So I'm going to kick off this week. We're going to talk about some of the new exciting changes. We saw some headlines, some screenshots of the new draft scheme, and that's been talked about to death by, pretty much everybody. So I want to give you some actual real hardcore opinions on the changes that are coming up. So first off, we've got Pulse Mage. Pulse Mage has been switched to an actual sizable body. It starts off at a 2/7 at level 1 now, which is quite a huge change than what it used to be, and it also activates to give something a lower attack until end of turn. What do you guys think of this card? Do you think it might see play in a Gloomheart Witch deck? Do you think it might see play in Draft? Do you think the card's still garbage? Is it still the worst, one of the bottom cards in Soulforge? What do you think, Jake?
I think that Pulse Mage went from being one of the worst cards in the entire game to being actually a very solid card, certainly in Draft. It's going to be great in Draft, because it's all about the board, and you're going to be able to do lots of great trades. Well, not even trades, but free combats, basically. And I think it's also constructed playable probably with Gloom Reaper Witch. I think has some potential, because Gloom Reaper has excellent stats that scale up. And also with Call of the Week could possibly make a comeback in a lot of decks with more shrinking abilities like this being actually on useful bodies. The stats on the Pulse Mage, I think, make her much more relevant than she was before.
What do you think, Rager?
Yeah, the Pulse Mage stats are pretty good. I mean, it puts it... Pulse Mage probably is going to be sitting at the Synapsis Oracle level of playability. It doesn't have quite the survivability, but it does have the extra points of power, and the activated ability is very relevant. We know there's a Shaper change coming, so it's going to be difficult to see if activate abilities are going to be fast enough in whatever the new meta is, because we do have that 24-card drop coming. So it's going to be like one of those wait-and-see kind of things, if activate abilities are going to be fast enough to be relevant in play. But yeah, no, the ability is good. I'm really happy with Pulse Mage actually being a relevant creature, and like JakeAlmighty was saying, in draft it's going to be a powerhouse. Like that's definitely a first pickable card. I mean, it's not exactly first pickable since it's not heroic, but you know what I mean. It has a very high power level, and for people who draft Aloyan, it is going to be a very high pick because you will not see it late in the draft.
What do you think, Fox?
My opinion is like everything that they've said before, but like first off, it's got a big butt, and I know you have a love for that kit. But the ability to change combat math even for a single turn multiple times seems very, very powerful to me, so I think we're definitely going to see it in some decks shortly. And I'm actually very happy to play with it myself. Seems like it's going to be a fun card.
That's what she said. Well, for me, my opinion on Pulse Mage is I really like the fact I like these low power, high toughness activations, cards that are 90% of the time going to survive a round of combat in their respective player rank. It's really important to me to see that because it's a card that your opponent doesn't necessarily want to kill when they could be killing another card. But if they don't kill it, then it gets used as effect. It's not something extremely relevant to the point of you have to kill this or you're going to lose the game. It's not dealing you damage. It's just slowly whittling away at your creatures. It makes it a hard choice for your opponent that's really hard for you to evaluate when you're on the other end of the board. Personally, I think it's a really strong card. I feel like people aren't going to give it the respect it deserves right off, and they're going to be punished for it. But that said, I hear about there's some other changes in the pipeline. Radrian, why don't you cover those?
One of the big changes we know about is Aetherhounds. It's now getting a point of power added to it at all levels, so it is now a 3/3, a 5/5, and a 7/7. And on top of that, probably the most interesting thing about it is that it does not need to be placed in adjacent lanes. The copy can go into any open lane, which definitely opens up a lot of strategery in both draft and actually constructed play, I think. The other change is the Swamp Moss Lurker, which has gotten some power at level 1. It's now an 8/4, which means that it's pretty much guaranteed to trade with everything. And, now it's the big stompy dinosaur that we've always wanted.
What do you think of the card, Jake?
I would look at both these cards in comparison to similar cards, because there are, other cards like them that we have to compare them to. First off, you compare Aetherhounds to Echo Wisp, right? I think it is still going to be worse than Echo Wisp, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, because Echo Wisp is obviously amazing. But I think it has a lot of room to be run alongside Echo Wisp in decks that want to fill up the board. Especially because you can now fill in the weird gaps that you sometimes get left with on those boards, where another Echo Wisp can't fill all the lanes.
Life Bomb.
Well, really an indirect buff to Lifeblood. Yes, Life Bomb. It goes right into Life Bomb, in my opinion.
Oh, yes.
What do you... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, Swamp Moss I'd compare right to the Prowler, because you're going to use them for a similar role. I think it is playable with the additional power. I think it's a little bit worse than Prowler at level 1, because you want those the 2 HP or the 3 HP that you get more than you want the extra 1 point of power. But the Swamp Moss scales a lot harder than the Prowler in cases where you do have to play it for a second time in the same game. So I think that's definitely an upside to it that could possibly bring it some play on that side. In draft, I think it's huge. It has a massive power. So if you can empty lane it, then, you can easily win with it.
What do you think, Vox?
All right. Well, we already know my opinion on Aetherhounds. I love the new Aetherhounds. They're so good. Got to fill that board. Got to pump all the bodies. Got to pump them all. But Swamp Moss Lurker is actually the more interesting change in my opinion. At level 1, it has 8 power, which is actually, for the most part, the magic number I've seen for a lot of the, the non-shaper played cards for their toughness. So, for the most part, in my opinion, it trades up a level at level 1. It doesn't quite trade up a level at level 2, but, it's in Utera, and Utera just loves buffing creatures. So it shouldn't be too hard to get with that magic number 15. And then in level 3, it actually trades with everything except for an Arborist with its ability activated, and a Krogius.
And a Thundersoar.
And Scrapforge Titan, I guess, because Scrapforge Titan is just huge.
And a couple other cards. But for the most part, yes.
It trades with almost everything. That's the thing.
Yes. All the non-late late game cards.
Yes. So my opinion is it's going to be a very good card. Definitely pickable in draft in multiples. And I think it's actually going to see some constructed play as well as, you need something low depreciation, something that's just good. And you've got an 8/4 right here that does the job. So I'm definitely going to be playing it.
So my opinion on Aetherhounds is, a while back, especially during closed beta, I commented on how I really liked Scout Drone and Hunting Pack in regards of a limited way, that I'd actually pick Scout Drone in limited draft in this case, and the same with Hunting Pack simply because they give you an ability nothing else has, and that's to have a free card to chump block. And Aetherhounds now blows both of those out of the water for what you're losing, what you're using those cards for. Aetherhounds, in my opinion, just took the only thing that I valued Hunting Pack for, which was, being able to block a second lane across the board. And I think that's absolutely crucial. I definitely agree with Jake. I think it's going to fit right alongside Echo Wisp. I don't really see many people that have Echo Wisp are going to be playing Aetherhounds instead of Echo Wisp, just because the level 3 Echo Wisp is so good. But I would say that if Echo Wisp didn't have the explosive level 3 that it had, say Echo Wisp was not a legendary, I could see Aetherhounds being played over it at some point. The level 1 and 2 versions, I actually think that Aetherhounds is better than Echo Wisp. It's the level 3 one that just takes the cake. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me. Oh, it's 6 power, it trades so well. Well, I mean, I'm looking at things from a more defensive point of view in that regard. But, that's all up for debate. Swamp Moss Lurker, I definitely see going in a Mono Utera deck. It feels to me like something that people are going to be using instead of where they wanted Shardplate Mutant before. Shardplate Mutant is still going to have its Niche next to Shambler. It's still going to see some play in Mono Utera, maybe, but I think Swamp Moss really covers what you want it for. Just a high-power creature that's always good at level 1, even if you draw it late, which is really what you want in Mono Utera. You want every hand to have 5 good options for you, and that's something that the deck obviously needs. So I'm really happy with both these changes, and I think they're going to make limited play really fun as well. Lastly, though, we have one, probably the biggest change that, I could hear people across the country just jumping up and down and shouting for when we finally got confirmation on this. Fox, why don't you cover that one?
Heck, we could even hear it in Canada, right? But what happened is Shapers now only trigger on cards of their own faction. They still trigger the same way, lower leveled cards, but they trigger in cards of their own faction. That was the only change. Now, a lot of people are still saying things like, Tempe's is still going to have, the best Shaper. Well, yes, Flame Shaper is really good, and they have Static Shock, but Jake, what do you think about this change?
Yeah, okay, this is definitely the change that most people, I think, are excited about, because I have probably argued with more people about the Shapers than anything else. I think all the Shapers, except the Steel Shaper, are still going to be very good. I've heard some people saying that, the Shapers are useless, they're dead now. Definitely not the case. Flame Shaper, I think, is obviously still going to be the strongest. I mean, they have the Master of Elements, Static Shock chains, first of all. Deck built around that is still going to be a thing, for sure. Which people will probably still complain about, because that's just how people do. I think Dark Shaper is probably the best, especially because he's a zombie. So he gets some relevance there in the rival version, like a Mono Necrium zombie type deck. And Life Shaper is far better than a lot of people give it credit for. I think just in general. And I know a lot of people play with him now, because it's for after the Shaper nerfs, and, Steel Shaper, the ability is, well, it was always kind of meh compared to the rest. But, yeah, I don't see him doing too much. But the other three are still definitely good to go.
Yeah, sadly, the the Alolan Shaper was beaten pretty hard by both Dark Shaper and the widespread use of Epidemic. Um, but as for like the rest of the Shaper changes, yeah, they are absolutely going to be played still. They're not dead. They are still very good cards, especially Flame Shaper, just because of Master of Elements and Static Shock. And actually, this is actually I hate to like give out my secrets, but this is actually a good time for AT spells to poise a comeback, because you really only like AT spells really only needs like Gox and Energy Surge as their Alolan cards, maybe Metasculpt depending on how played other Shapers and Zemus and stuff are played. But just drawing cards and playing lots of Tempe spells, that's probably a legitimate strategy right there. Life Shaper, yes. Life Shaper was not given enough credit. As somebody who played a lot of Utera Tempe's Shapers, like Life Shaper was like your out to NT Shapers because they got so inbred that just that they cut all their hard removal, so making a really big creature was like your way to win, and they couldn't deal with it. So like just Life Shaper in a mostly Utera deck is going to be very good. Dark Shaper, especially in the mostly Manu Necroneum decks, with just a lot of removal and epidemics and like the zombie tribal theme, like that's also going to be really good. The Shapers are not dead. But yes, I think they are now more balanced with the rest of the set than they were before, and so this is a fantastic change. I'm happy to see it happen.
Well, for me, I mean, I don't really care about the constructed aspect so much as the draft aspect. I know that when we were doing the sample drafts, virtually every time you saw a Shaper, it was an auto pick. For me, now doing the Phantom drafts, I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, this is a really interesting decision. I mean, do I take the Shaper when I have 16 of one and 8 of the other? Is that worth taking? And oftentimes the answer's been no. By the way, we should put that link down bottom. I think his name's Grutar. I'm sorry if I say your name wrong, sir, but he set up another version of the draft app that is more relevant and more close to the one that we should be seeing in a few weeks. But yeah, doing that, Shapers are actually a choice now. It's an interesting decision that you have to make. How focused you want to be? How focused you want to be on those things? Going beyond that, in Constructed, I'm really happy that no longer are you going to see a Flame Shaper come down and then Epidemic and wipe someone's whole board. That part makes me really happy. I definitely appreciate the fact that, yeah, Flame Shaper's still going to be good, but it's not going to be wipe your whole board every turn good. So I think that was my biggest concern. I didn't really have so much of a problem with Dark Shaper as I did with Flame Shaper plus Epidemic. That was really my problem.
Mm-hmm. I think the Shapers are definitely much more of a choice now. Constructed, they'll still be able to be played. They're still good cards. Poor Steel Shaper, though. He just doesn't see too much play, even though his ability is so powerful. But in draft, I think the biggest thing is that, it's not auto pick. You actually have to consciously decide, am I going to, focus on trying to be a mono deck, or am I just going to ignore that particular option there? And I think a lot of times, that the splash is going to be worth it more, but, sometimes you're going to have, that really, really great deck where you just want to pick up every Shaper you see because, you're in one faction and you'll be able to abuse them. So, my opinion, great change. I think that's exactly what they needed.
Awesome. Well, we do have one final spoiler to talk about, and this card, hailing all the way back from the Jurassic period, this card bonks, and it donks twice. In fact, it badonk, kit donks. It's Thundersaur. It is a 0-12, 0-24, 0-36 with Breakthrough. When it takes damage, it gets that much attack. I'm really excited about this card. Jake, how do you feel about it?
I think he is probably really, really great. They haven't spoiled the rarity, but I expect him to be legendary for sure. He has a very strong, unique ability. And I think he is going to be awesome. I think he's a huge buff to almost any Utera deck that's looking to win with damage, which is pretty much all of them, I think. I know there's some potential to get cute with him with like Heart Tree or Mossbeard or something to keep him growing forever. I don't know how effective that's going to be. I think he may just end up being better as an awesome creature that can trade with anything and possibly do a lot more if circumstances line up for him. But there is a possibility of, having a huge grower, which doesn't die to Dreadbolt the majority of the time that he's alive. So, that's a pretty good thing in his favor. I'm definitely going to play with him when he comes out, along with a whole bunch of 7/7s in Utera, and it's going to be awesome.
Thoughts, Radrian? Radrian? Looks like we might have lost Radrian. Fox?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Thunder, 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 soar here at the Thunderdome, rolling up and crushing the opposition. No, Thundersoar is a pretty sweet card. I actually think that this will bring back the Heart Tree, because I do Heart Tree, back into being able to be played competitively, along with other big creatures. I mean, it keep dropping creatures that need to be dealt with, and so you can actually play like a Heart Tree and get real value out of it again. Especially, and just because it works with Thundersoar really well doesn't mean it doesn't work with the rest of the creatures really well too. I mean, it does. You play enough 7/7s in player level 1, and they're just going to be very hard to kill. So Thundersoar is a great addition to Otera. I'm going to be happy to see it played. And yeah, it really does. It trades with pretty much anything, and it trades up really well. So I'm pretty excited to see how this card does in the upcoming meta.
So here, with Thundersoar, I really like the card. I actually think it's one of the more interesting cards that you can open as a new player as well, because something you can do with it is, if you're a new player, it's really easy to get your hands on cards like Toxic Spores and Necrovive, and so you can sort of build your own mini combo deck and Toxic Spores and Necrovive him, and so he gains 3 attack every turn for free. And, that may not be the best thing, and it may be just really cute. I think it'd be really fun, and if somebody gets that card early in their account, they're going to have a good time with it. Maybe their friends are going to hate them because, it's a big butt with a lot of attack, and it just deals lots and lots of damage. But, see what I did there? No? We're done with that. I really like the card. I think it's going to see a lot of play, and I actually think it may put the big butt defender deck onto the map, because now you have a win condition that's awesome with Heart Tree. Just absolutely awesome. So that's my opinion.
Well, we already know how I feel. The card has an insane badonkadonk. It's the second biggest one in the game naturally. Doesn't have to jump through hoops to get there. It's just absolutely got curves that you deserve. And I definitely, I kind of agree with everybody's assessment. I think that I love this card. It's definitely going to be one of my favorites simply because it's a solid card on its own that can be built around for your gimmicky fun decks, but it can also be a tier 1 staple. There's very few cards that, get the chance to do both, and this fits both. I really, really, really love the fact that this card trades with anything you put in front of it. Yes, some people, when I mentioned that the other day, they're like, oh, but you could put a Nexus core in front of it and it can't trade with that. I'm like, come on, guys, seriously? They both have big butts. They're friends. They're not going to, touch each other.
I don't know.
They're just going to go to parties together and twerk it to Miley Cyrus.
I rated Nexus core a 6 out of 5. I don't know what you're saying, man.
Obviously, jetpack shenanigans. Obviously.
So, really, the card being able to trade with anything you put in front of it while also dealing damage to the opponent. Sometimes it'll get even better. That's just really, really awesome. At level 3, it's going to be a pain in the butt to deal with. This card, if you see your opponent playing Gloomheart Witch or Gloom Reaper Witch, whatever its name is, I'm sorry if I get it wrong, guys. If you're playing against that, maybe you don't play this card onto an empty board. think about that for a second, okay? Gee, my opponent's playing Gloom Reaper Witch. Maybe I shouldn't throw my 036 out into an empty board. Maybe I should wait until they have an offensive creature so I can stick this in front of it. Kind of the same smart strategy that you might do with a Grimgaunt Predator deck. Not just
offensive.
randomly throw your 2/2s on the board. Oh, great, I get to level something with my Technosmith. Let me make this 14/14 a 20/18 with mobility. That sounds like a good idea. But anywho, as long as you're playing with this card smartly, it has a lot of fun, really, really cool. I think it's a tier 1 card. This card better be legendary. I'm going to at least go to Staples and buy as many decks as I can to flip it. Maybe I won't even buy them. Maybe I'll just go to Staples and flip it. I go to jail for a little while, guys, and you don't see me. You know why.
Well, now that we're done making cheeky puns about Thundersoar...
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know. Yep, come on. You know it. Alright, so...
No.
With all of these changes...
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
Can we make like a Thundercats deck where we put like Call the Lightning with Thundersoar?
Ooh.
Because you hear thunder, and then you call the lightning. Patent pending, that is a song on the forums, go check it out.
Fair enough.
Alright, so how do you think that these changes that we know about are going to affect the Invitational?
Well, we should ask Jake. He's gonna be in the Invitational. What do you think, Jake?
I think that they are probably going to save the Invitational from being 5 days of NT Shaper Mirror matches. That's what they're going to do. Which is, for the better, because nobody wants to play that, or watch that, or read about that. Or, like the guys at Metagaming TV, when they stream it, they'd probably just give up and die. Like,
It's true. They wouldn't know what to say. So we have NT Shapers against another NT Shapers, and they're going to play a lot of Zemus, and the person who plays the most Zemus wins.
yeah.
Shall we go get tea?
Oh, this one's got a variation. He's playing one more Lightning Spark than usual.
4?
Cheating? 4?
I was making up something, guys. Jeez.
Oh, look, a dragon. That won't do anything.
Well, I mean, like, what do you expect to see? Do you think what you've seen so far is enough to change up the matchups you expect to play? What about what you're thinking of building just with what you know so far? Has anything impacted you at all?
Absolutely. I think Flame Shaper is still a deck, either whether it's Mono Tempest or whether it's like Raidrin built it with Aloyan way back when. I think Utera Aggro is going to be awesome with Thundersoar as it's part of its backbone. It's already a strong deck, and I think it only gets better with the new cards. I think Robots, which is what I'm on right now to potentially play in the Invitational, is a tier 1 deck. It's already very strong, and there's going to be less Epidemic as a result of the N being dropped from the T in the Shaper's deck.
It's a good way
So
to
I
put
think
it.
it gets a boost as well. And it's possible that there's still a really strong NT removal deck, the way Tiny Grimes plays it, which is just with Predators and a ton of removal spells. But I'm not sure. Oh, and Grimgrow mid-range is probably a thing, at least right away. I don't know if it's going to blast all the way, but I think that those Grow decks that try and win sort of mid-range later on in the game are going to definitely have an impact for at least a little while.
I got to cut in there, and I got to say that we have seen throughout Soulforge history that anytime a new meta happens, that's the first deck that gets big. Just flat out, the first deck that goes to any tournament you see features more Grimgaunt Devourers than any other single legendary, period.
I think that the Invitational is NT Shaper, like Jake was saying. I don't think NT Shapers is actually dead, and I think that it will actually commonly be played with 6 Necreum cards: Epidemic and Zemus. You really don't need much else than that. And being able to just chain with Flame Shaper while still having the really solid late game of Zemus. And now you actually see, the thing is that while Dark Shaper was good, I actually thought it was like one of the more superfluous cards in the deck. Like I could see cutting down to 2 or maybe even 1 Dark Shaper in some rare cases. You don't really need Predator. You have Phoenix. So just playing Zemus and Epidemic, along with the core shaper cards and a bunch of Aloyan removal and maybe some more aggressive Tempest not Aloyan, I'm sorry. Excuse me. The Tempest core and some more aggressive Tempest creatures is probably actually going to be a very viable deck. And because Dark Shaper's not in there, you now don't have like this thing where I have to level all of my Shapers. So now do I not level my Master of Elements? Do I not level my Zemus? Now that it's been limited to like you just need to level your Flame Shaper, your Zemus, and and your Master of Elements. It's in some ways going to be easier to play and possibly even be more effective now that it's more streamlined.
Yeah. The deck, I think, still has potential. It does lose consistency, in my opinion, because, it's not running 6 Shapers anymore. Instead, it's running 3, and so, it needs to draw those more often in order to get, those better nut draws, in my opinion. But I don't think it's going to be as dominant as it's been, and that's a very good thing. Personally, I think, we're probably going to see a large number of Bright Steel Gargoyles at the Invitational. And we're probably going to see a lot of aggro decks, unless something drastic happens in the meta game after the patch, up until the Invitational. So that's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, there are a bunch of cards we haven't seen.
That's very true.
That's so true.
So for me, my opinion on the whole NT Shapers thing is simply that the deck's still going to be a Tier 1 deck, where previously I felt it was Tier 0, meaning it was better than pretty much any Tier 1 deck could be, because it had a 50% or greater matchup against every other deck except itself. With that in mind, I think it's still a Tier 1 deck. My big opinion is it's just going to not draw much less often. The deck is still going to be good, it's still going to be consistent, it's still going to be a player in the meta game. It's just not going to be Tier 0, and it's not going to be nut drawing every other game. That's a slight exaggeration that it nut drew every other game, but I mean it's enough of a difference that it's going to feel less restrictive in the meta, that people are probably going to break away from this Shapers are the best thing. Because again, I don't personally think Shapers were the best thing. I think they were the most accessible thing, and there was no price for failure, because there were no prizes on the line. There was no cost associated with the tournaments, so there's no reason for people to innovate. I think that this Invitational is going to cause a lot of people to innovate. I don't actually think that Aether Hounds or Pulse Mage will see a play unless somebody makes a Grim Reaper Witch deck for the Invitational. I don't think Pulse Mage will see play. Aether Hounds probably didn't get enough of a buff in the current card pool that we know of to see play. And if somebody plays Manu Terra, I imagine that we'll see at least one, if not more, Swamp Moss Lurker in the deck. People are still going to play Shapers. They're still good. People are definitely going to play Thundersoar. My candidate for best pick is currently Robots. If I had to guess with what I know, it's Robots Splashing Ferocious Roar deck, especially because you're going to see potentially less Epidemics. You're not going to expect to see them in 50% of the deck, so maybe you start playing Battle Droid. And I think Battle Droid is something that really needs to get played in a Robot deck. It's something that the Robots really want to have out. So that's my opinion on how this will affect the Invitational, and a little bit more feedback than you probably wanted on Shapers.
Sorry.
Bot strategy. Thanks.
So we already know that Jake currently is expecting to play Robots. If I were playing in the Invitational, that's what I'd play. Rager and Fox, if you guys were going to the Invitational, Rager, I think you are going. Yeah, you are going to the Invitational.
Yes, I'm in the Invitational.
With what you know right now, what would you play?
Oh, geez. Well, off the cuff, I would probably play AT Spells. With NT Shapers not drawing, it has access to Metasculpt, so you pretty much get to stop other Shaper decks in their tracks, as well as the all-powerful Zemus. It also actually has a pretty good game on. It's got a pretty good game on both Robots and Manu Terra. I'm not even kidding. I don't know why. I don't know how it wins, but it just does. Especially robots, because you get to any of their like high armor stuff. You just get to Metasculpt it. Metasculpt is a really good card, guys. You gotta play it more. Otherwise, like my second pick, if that didn't work out, would actually probably be the Crush deck that I was talking about, the Atera and Aloyan, just all really good creatures that you only need, even if you only see 2 cards in your hand because of Mutant, those 2 cards are still going to be relevant, and so you just keep on playing big cards and try to kill them before player level 3 rolls around.
Yeah. With me,
what about you, Fox? I'm assuming Life Bomb. Can we all hear it for Life Bomb? Because that's what I'm hearing.
Well, that's actually an interesting question. The version of Life Bomb right now that I'm playing is too inconsistent for me to want to play it in a large tournament yet. But assuming I get the inconsistencies worked out, I probably play that. I'm not currently qualified, and I'm not sure whether I will be able to play in the qualifier this weekend. But assuming that I do qualify and I can't work out the inconsistencies in Life Bomb, I will go with my fallback in Robots, because that is my second favorite deck in the whole game, and I actually have almost all the cards for it. And it's very fun to play.
That is what the Fox play.
Oh, God.
What the Fox play?
So, moving on, Fox, why don't you just give us a brief highlight of what we know about draft so far?
All right. So, you're going to see 30 packs, and you're going to pick 1 card from every pack.
We're going to see 30 packs? Dude,
yes.
That's so many packs.
I know, right? But yeah, you're going to pick 1 card from every pack until you've assembled a 30-card deck. However, there's a bit of a change here from, what you'd expect, just seeing 30 packs of 6 or something like that. Instead, based on, what the community's been picking, the computer will actually generate a pack and then, take cards out of it until you get to the number of cards you have. So you're going to go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then repeat 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 all the way through until you've had your 30 packs based on what the community has been picking.
What about the second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth pack? Do those come with full heroics?
So the first pack starts off with guaranteed, at the minimum, heroics. Every card is a heroic.
Can they be legendary?
They can be legendary.
That's awesome.
From what I understand, every single card in the draft has the chance to upgrade to the highest rarity. Now, that chance decreases as you get farther into the draft, but you still have that chance of, say, out of your last 2 cards, you could have, I don't know, a Bright Steel Gargoyle sitting there. And the other interesting thing about draft is, you take your first card and you are locked into one faction. And then you get to see cards of other factions as well until you take your second faction card, at which point you're locked into those 2 factions, and those are the only factions you will see from that point on. So you'll be able to, if you lock yourself in early, you've got more chances to see very specific cards that you're looking for.
I've got a question. So if you draft, a mono Utera deck out of these 30 cards, because it sounds like that's possible, would that make you a Uteran pack master?
Oh my gosh. Really, Kit?
I'm sorry, I had to. Moving on. We're actually going to give you a sample of the draft program as we believe it works. We've gone and done a My Pack Your Pick with the new information that we have, and we've got 6 cards for you guys to pick from. So, Jake, if you, just knowing these following cards, what would you pick right now? Scrapforged Titan, Hellforged Avatar, Firestorm, Botanimate, Flesh Fiend, or Orion Battle Droid, and why?
I thought about this quite a lot before making the decision. It came down for me to either Flesh Fiend or the Battle Droid as my 2 options, the Nectarium or Aloyan. And I decided that I would go most of the time with the Flesh Fiend because he's just amazing. He's okay at level 1. He's a 5/5. It's not bad. He's excellent at level 2. He's basically like Zymus. And at level 3, he is incredible because he's huge, and he respawns twice. Which, okay, it isn't still as good as Zymus, but, you don't have a Zymus.
There's worse things you could be than not Zymus.
Truth.
What about you, Rajan? What would you pick?
I would actually slam the Flesh Fiend. Like, I look at these other cards, I see Titan, I'm like, oh, that's really good. I know that could win the game, but quite frankly, Flesh Fiend is, it's so much value through all the levels. I mean, 5/5 at level 1 is completely acceptable, and it's such good value, and it actually gives you access to a lot of removal later on, just like the possibility of the random Epidemic, the possibility of the random Dreadbolt, and like even is it Ghastly Touch?
Yes.
Like even Ghastly Touch is an acceptable mid-pack pick. So Flesh Fiend is a bomb, and it's a bomb that's good at all levels. Therefore, I will take the bomb.
Fox?
All right, so I actually like almost every single card in this pack, and it really depends, on what I'm in the mood to take at the time. But the only card I wouldn't pick is Hellforged Avatar, because I just don't like that particular card. But for me, at this point in time, I'd actually take the Battle Droid. I really, really, really like Aloyan and being able to get those robots at common. There's a lot of good cards. You've got the potential to smooth your draws a lot with things like Technosmith. And you will have Pulse Mage as well, which I think is going to be, fairly good in draft. And, Orion Battle Droid plays along really well with pump spells. And so, if you get the chance to go into some good Utera cards, I'm going to slam every Enrage and every Grove Huntress I see, because if I make, like, an 8/4 Armor 5, it's going to be really hard to deal with unless you have specific removal for it.
For me, I think that every card except Hellforged Avatar is pickable in your first pack. I think of the remaining cards, Firestorm is probably the weakest. So I think that most of the time I would pick Flesh Fiend here. I'm not going to, because you already saw 2 people pick it. So I'm going to pick what my second pick would be, which interestingly enough is not Orion Battle Droid. So my thought process on why I wouldn't take Battle Droid over the card that I would, Flesh Fiend is the best pick in my opinion, so I have nothing negative to say about that. That's a really high pick no matter what. But Battle Droid, you're going to be actually playing against a lot of the Necreum commons, which are going to be pseudo-removal. Contagion Surge, Vengeful Spirit, Ghastly Touch, all go way up in value, and people are going to be picking them a lot more. So I actually feel very hesitant to take the Battle Droid. Well, not very hesitant. I'm actually not hesitant at all. But I think that I would pick the Botanimate over it. Botanimate, again, you're playing on low-pressure games in level 1. People don't have consistency to make those high-pressure plays. So you're going to be able to level that in level 1 pretty consistently. And it's just it's only level-gated, unconditional removal for anything in the game that you have a problem with. So I would pick Botanimate is my second pick, and I'm going to go with it just so you guys can see 3 different factions. So moving on, I just want to show, if you guys picked a Tempe's pack, for those of you at home, I just wanted to show you the 5 cards we would have given you. Fire Fist Chironti, Frozen Solid, Ghastly Touch, Hunting Pack, and Forge Plate Sentry. Those would have been the cards you would have been able to pick from. But Jake, since you did pick the Flesh Fiend, let me go ahead and tell you what you would have gotten. Steel Shaper, Matrix Warden, Meta Sculpt, which is an upgrade for you, Death Seeker, and Ether Hounds. What would you take?
Following Flesh Fiend. Okay, I think I would probably take Death Seeker, because I think Death Seeker is actually really good, because he can chump, and then you get your large creature, so you actually get 2 combats worth out of him. And he has a acceptable size on the second creature all the way up. It's a little bit smaller than say Flesh Fiend 3, but that's not a problem. Flesh Fiend is way over the curve. I think Steel Shaper is actually also a possible pick here though, because I think he's actually really, really strong in draft. I'm just not exactly sure how much I want that yet, because I haven't done enough, I haven't drafted yet.
Mm-hmm.
You could definitely get away with naming Steel Shapers the pick.
Do you feel the same, Radron? What's your opinion?
I'm leaning towards Death Seeker. Ether Hounds is interesting, but I think that I would only second pick an Ether Hounds if I knew that if I had gotten a Ferocious Roar in my first pick. So I actually do feel that it's between the Death Seeker and the Steel Shaper. I do worry about Steel Shaper being enough value just due to the fact that now you have to prioritize Aloyan picks, which is not bad. There are a lot of very good Aloyan commons, but there really are a lot of -X creatures and abilities that are going to be picked because I think Necreum is going to be a very highly picked faction, and so that worries me. So having a creature that can die, come back, and then have a big body, I would probably pick the Deathseeker here.
All right, I definitely agree with you guys that those are the two picks that I think are the strongest. Moving on though, Fox, we got you with Orion Battle Droid, and here are your next 5 picks. We've got Grove Huntress, Toxic Spores, Fellwalker, Ashurian Mystic, and an upgrade into Steelforged Avatar.
All right, so this is pretty interesting for me actually. Steelforged Avatar definitely really is a tempting choice because, you know, Mono Aloyan could be very interesting in draft. I'm not sure how good it is, so for now I'm going to ignore the upgrade, but I think that's definitely a strategy I'm going to try, as Steelforged Avatar is, in my opinion, the strongest of the avatars, especially since you have the option to find Metamind Adepts, Energy Surges, and Technosmiths. But my actual pick here is Grove Huntress, because like I said earlier, you know, pump spells are definitely something that you want to be seeing with Orion Battle Droid, and Grove Huntress definitely fits into that. And Grove Huntress is just a good card in general. Getting a body plus a pump spell is just something that I'm always fine with, and so that's what I'm going to take because I think it's amazing.
Well, we haven't done this before, but I'd like to hear your guys' opinion. This is a new draft format, and I think everybody could benefit from hearing a widespread opinion. So what do you guys think? If you first picked Orion Battle Droid, what would your second pick be?
Jake?
Oh, sorry. Okay, so Battle Droid first, and then that pack. Okay. I would probably go Grove Huntress, because Aloyan and Utera is a great combination, first of all. And furthermore, Battle Droid is amazing with Grove Huntress. End of story. I did think about the Steelforged Avatar, because I think he's actually, you know, the much stronger card, obviously. But I'm not sure at this point how dedicated you're going to be able to be to a single faction. I think you definitely need to be mostly Aloyan for him to be worth it. Whereas the Grove Huntress is going to be good every single time you draw it and play it.
Rager?
I actually think that I would pick the Steelforged Avatar here. And then going into pick 3, I would hope that I would get an Utera card to lock me down into 2 factions so that I start getting 50-50, hopefully nearly 50-50 picks of Utera and Aloyan cards so that I can prioritize Aloyan cards with my Utera cards being pump spells. But I think that the raw power level of Steelforged Avatar is too much to ignore. And so I would be looking to very carefully pick my Utera cards and try to only get, like, at a maximum, like, 8 Utera cards, preferably 6 maximum, and then just press hard. Like, even if my picks are kind of subpar, just pushing for those good Aloyan cards, because just the raw power level of the Orion Battle Droid and the Steelforged Avatar and pump spells seems really good. And because you only need to play 2 out of the 5 cards you draw, even if you have like 6 or so not really fantastic picks, you'll hopefully be able to ignore those a majority of the time and just play your more powerful cards. So I would pick the Steelforged Avatar.
So I want to say that if we had gotten a Battle Tactician, I'd snap pick the Ashurian Mystic, but since we have Orion Battle Droid, I actually don't value that as one of the picks. I think it's definitely between the 2 picks you guys keep mentioning, and I would take the Steelforged Avatar as well. Just getting the armor, like in draft, armor's much harder to deal with, I feel, because you have less guaranteed naturally big creatures. But, changes like what they made to Swamp Moss Lurker have me hopeful that maybe other unplayed cards might see changes. Maybe we'll see changes to Water Walker, Stormcaller, Zombie Infantry, things like that. Maybe other vanillas will get a nice buff that make them worth picking. But right now, Steelforge Avatar would be my pick in the current known pool. So moving on, I chose Botanimate. That gives me the Utera base pack. It's actually really interesting. The pack I got only rolled Utera and Tempe's cards. It didn't roll either of the other two factions, so I don't really have a whole lot to pick from. What I got was Utera Packmaster, Uranti Cyromancer, Riftlasher, Magma Hound, and Uranti Bolt. And yes, that is an upgraded Packmaster, which is pretty sweet. Genuinely, I think that Packmaster is clearly a pick here. I think that Uranti Bolt is the next best card in the pack, to the point that I would slam it over any of the others. But you can't pass Utera Packmaster. So that is clearly my pick. But I'm interested to see you guys. I'm pretty sure you guys feel the same about Packmaster being the pick. But what would your second pick be? Would it be Uranti Bolt like me, or do you have something else in mind?
No, I agree completely. I made a little note when you typed it to me that Bolt is amazing, but, Utera Packmaster is instant slam. No question.
I just want to say that if there was an Uranti Packmaster, I would probably play it. But yeah, for all the same reasons that I was talking about Steelforge Avatar, Packmaster's the pick. You can... I think that once you get down to those two factions and you start seeing these 50-50 packs, you're going to be able to just push a faction pretty effectively. It just seems like it's going to be that way. But yeah, my second pick is probably Uranti Bolt. It scales so well. My close after that is actually the Magma Hound. I really think Magma Hound's going to be pretty powerful in the draft format. But I think Uranti Bolt just as raw removal, and you don't necessarily have to play it, but it scales really highly, and the defender is so relevant that would definitely be the second pick.
I gotta get in touch with Kibler so I can have him nerf Magma Hound so I can be completely right.
Personally, for me, I would take the Uranti Bolt simply because removal is king in draft. In my opinion, I really enjoy limited formats, but assuming that both Utera Packmaster and Uranti Bolt weren't there, I would probably take the Magma Hound, as Magma Hound's a good body plus a very good effect, and so it would be an easy pick for me.
It's a strong pack. It's a really strong pack.
Yeah. I mean, they're all good choices. They're all cards that I would love to see later. For what it's worth, I truly did randomize these packs. They were not things that I picked out myself, but that was very interesting.
Well, Soulforge is filled with sweet cards.
Yes, I'm very happy about it. I'm looking forward to this patch. I've been in touch with Stoneblade. Maybe next week we'll have a spoiler for you guys. You should expect, now that a new meta's coming out, that you'll be seeing more player level 4. I know we're excited to be doing it again, and you'll definitely hear us do... even if we don't do regular events, you'll see us for a spoiler, and you'll see us for the invitational. So you can count on that, and maybe that means we'll be doing regular episodes again. But hey, Fox, why don't you take us out?
All right. Well, just remember, we're all going to be badonkin and a donkin over here, especially Kit. But
at the Thunderdome.
But until the next time, remember that big butts are pickable. I don't even know how well that worked. But say bye, everyone, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thunder, 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 soar.